Hi, this is Tabiso, and today we are going to learn how to make a 3D logo. There are many applications for making a 3D logo. It could be for a client presentation, it could be for flyer or poster design, it could be for mock-up, it could be for a video, who knows. So today we are going to learn how to take an SVG file that I've exported from Illustrator and use it in the 3D process in Blender. So let's get started. So the first thing we have to do is we have to export our 3D logo from Illustrator to Blender. There are many formats, but the format that currently works in Blender is SVG formats. So I've just prepared my logo. Make sure it's transparent. You go to export settings, right click, collect for exports as a single asset. You'll see it here as asset 5. We just have to export my SVG files. I should be done right now, so it's exported. Let's jump in to Blender. So I will close up this selection. I'll close up the selection. By the way, I will show you where I get my texture files and HDRIs. I'll put the link in the description below. So we can begin. Go to our layout panel. So go to File, Imports, Scalable Vector Graphics SVG. Don't mistake it for SVG as grease pencil. So we import scalable vector graphics. Just go to where I've saved my file. Let's see the name. I think it's asset 5. Import SVG. So I'm going to import my SVG. It comes in as small, so you're going to have to zoom in a bit, but we can also grab it. We press S to scale it up a bit. Then we click. Next thing we do is we have to make this into a single file so it's easier to use, because right now there's a lot of files here and they're gonna cause chaos later. So it's better to just right click here, and let me change the panel. Right click, something I can't get. So I'll select everything. I will right click or Control J, press join. So it's a single file. So when I grab it, it's fine. Right click, set origin, and click geometry to origin. That will put it in the center nicely for us to work with. So the next step, we have to rotate the logo by pressing R, X90, enter, so it's nice and upright, the logo. The next thing we have to do is remove the black material in the shading panel. You can just just go into the shading panel and just click this X here to disable the material. Let's go back to the layout panel. So right now it's a flat logo. We want to introduce some depth using extrude options. Click and select, so you can see we have some thickness, but we don't want it to be this thick, so we can just go into the settings, use 0,001, press enter. That's better. It's much more better. So as you've seen in the video that I did, my logo had like a neon outer on the rim, a neon glow. So what I did was I just duplicated by Shift D don't move your mouse, press enter, so it's duplicated as the copy of the main logo. We go into our bevel settings. You could just play around with the values, see what works, but I've just copied and pasted this, so we'll just find out what works for me right now. So we'll use this much of a bevel. Let's just go back to the viewport, not rendered view, so you may not see it a bit, so I'll just have to increase until you see, and then we extrude it a bit. Decrease the extrusion. Basically, I'm making it slightly bit thinner than the main logo, which will be sort of like a metal color. So let's use 0.08. I think you can already see what's happening. Let me just decrease it even more. So shouldn't be so thin, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because we just needed to show a little bit so we can apply a glowing material. So now that we've duplicated, save. Remember to save. Once we've done this, we can just Shift A, press Shift A, go to mesh, go to plane. This will be our wall, RX90. So we just need a wall that's like this. It doesn't matter if it comes through, you can just shift it a bit. You can just shift it a bit, just a bit, and then scale it up. So you basically have something like that. Now what we do, I think we're done. No, we're not done yet. It's just one more thing. The edges here, we haven't beveled them, so they'll give us that extra pop in the edges. It shouldn't be so straight and perfect. So we can just use the same. It usually works with the same. Just copy this. Click here, Control C. Click here, Control V. Just copy the same. No, it hasn't worked, but it's a good shortcut to know. It's time-saving shortcut just to copy the values, then to manually put them in. But here, it doesn't seem to work that way. So you just need a little bit, just a little bit of edge, and then we extrude it up a bit. Or using the bevel, just increase it ever so slightly. Yes, so we just want that sort of edge to be round and not the sharp and flat. It'll look good once we render, once we use our lights. You'll see. So we can just leave it as it is. So far the scene has been set up. So now I can just use a sky material, apply any HDRI that you have. I'll put the link in the description of where I got my HDRI and also where I got my texture. So here we can just jump into the shading panel. We can just jump in to the shading panel and use just put that completely in. Just put it my panel in a bit. Just closing that up nicely. So we can just jump into our viewport shading mode. As you can see, there aren't any lights. My HDRI is currently set at 0.16. If I set it to 0, maybe the scene world and scene lights are interfering. I don't understand why, because I don't have any lights activated. Let's go to the render view. So you can see it's black here. So let's just increase the strength to 1. I'm currently in. Can use EV to preview, then we'll make the final render in cycles. So right now we can just let me just switch on the scene lights and scene world. we'll switch it off when we do the final render. So now we can just make a new material. We can just make it like Shift A, add ramp, color ramp, just to give us our gradients, silver like gradients. Take the metallic a tad bit up, the specular, take it up. The roughness, we want to make a variation, so we'll just input the noise texture and then add in the color ramp. Okay, put the color into the factor and the color into the roughness, just to give us that variation, just to give us that nice variation. You might not be able to see it yet, but what I'm doing here, I'm just playing with the roughness values so they can give us some variation. Just move the scale up a bit, scale it up a bit. Yeah, I think that's quite about fine. We will tweak it more when we get into the rendering stage. So let's get onto the neon, create a new material, delete the principal BSDF, add in an emission, put it into the surface. As you can see, it's already started glowing. Take up the strength a bit. You can see there's some difference. There's a difference. You can see the difference. You can choose any color you want. So for this one, we can just make it different from the thumbnail and make it green. Green looks nice. It also looks nice. I just wanted to show you that how much control you can have with these tools. So what's next? We can make our background, we can make our wall. So I just clicked on the plane. You cannot see it. Yes, I just clicked on the plane, added a new material. So I'll put in the brick material. I'll put in the brick material in the description with the link. Yeah, you can just download it and follow along the tutorial. So you can just connect the color to the color. You can already see that it's way too big. The scaling of this wall is way too big. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna activate texture coordinates, Control T. If you don't get texture coordinate and mapping node, make sure your preferences, you've activated the node wrangler. So you just go into preferences, add-ons, search for node wrangler. See, mine is switched on. Switch on your node wrangler so you can get these extra settings and extra functionalities in Blender. So now what we can do, we can just scale it until you get the right proportions, until it looks reasonable, it looks decent. Shouldn't be so out of proportion like this. So I think that's better. What I did in this tutorial, I didn't want a colored brick. I just put in a color ramp. I put in a color ramp and I made it black and white. I made the wall black and white to better direct the scene. So we're almost done. So now we just need to add in some roughness values. Just add in some roughness. What am I doing? Just add in some roughness values. Just copy this color ramp to make things easier so you don't search for it all the time. What happened? What am I doing now? Just paste this color ramp. Take the color of the roughness, put into the factor, and then put it into the, I think it's the roughness of the wall. So you can see there's some variation here and here. You can see the roughness is playing its part, but we need one more thing. We just need to connect these values because they must all use the same texture coordinate that tells the material how to scale and stuff. So we just play around with the roughness values until you get something that is reasonable. So now we can just use a displacement map or a normal map. You can just use add in a normal. No, I think it's a bump map. I think you use a bump map, put it in the normal. Let's check with this height, strength. So I don't think this works in Eevee. I don't think this works in Eevee. Let me just try a normal map. I just want to make the wall to have more depth. Normal map. Just take this normal, add in a normal image, then put in a color to the color. Yes, see, now we have some more roughness. Might not be able to see it, but let's drag it down a bit. And then we connect it to the texture coordinates. Yes, so you can see right now that I'm using the same texture coordinates for everything, so it can match up nicely. Now that our wall has been taken care of, we can play around with our lighting. So I'm just gonna hide our neon for a bit. Shift A, add in a spotlight. Now we are just directing our scene, just making it look nicely. Look developments. Let's change the size. I think I'm gonna switch on scene world and scene lights. Now we no longer need those the default values, the default tools. You can just increase the brightness, the power of the lights. Bring the strength of the world down. You see now how working on those edges earlier, it makes it look better, and it makes the logo pop even more. So yeah, just keep it in mind. It's those little things in design. So now I'll just duplicate my light, and then grab it, and then shine it back. For this one, I'll use an area light. I'll just use an area light just to catch those highlights. Bring down the power, and we can now just bring it down here a bit. Make a disk, an eclipse. Let's go to rendered view. Jump into the camera, press N, camera to view, click camera to view. Then we click camera to view. We shift it. Now we can just turn on our neon and let's jump into cycles. Let's see if it works in cycles. Bring down the brightness of this second light. Maybe you can change the color to something orange. Grab it outside, push up the power, bring it up, scale it up. You can just make a two color, something that uses two colors. Increase the radius of the spotlights, spot size. Then we bring down our world. It's all about subtle changes. You don't want to do too much of everything, so I just might have to bring down my lights. Let's do it at 10. No, 10 is too low, but for the spotlight, let's use 50, a value of 50. And then for the wall, you can just make it a little, it's too dark, so we can just add another color stopper. Then bring this a bit darker, make this a bit darker, and then we just adjust the color stopper to fit in with the scene. You can just take the specularity of the wall, play around with the roughness, jump into the camera. You jump into the camera. I think I used the previous camera. I can see that something is wrong with this camera. So we just jump into this camera, click camera to view. Yes, it was the previous camera. Sorry for that. So we can just now we are just finalizing our design process. So in Eevee you can choose whether to render in Eevee or cycles. It depends on your engine. So you can just click here, bring down the sky value. I think my lights are too bright. I don't know why, but I think I'll use this one. As an area light and use the bottom one as a spotlight. How about that? How about we try it like that? Or we can just do both area lights and just bring this far from this. I think we are done, guys. I think we are done for today. I think we can just use cycles. I don't understand why is it so the sky value you can just use 0.5. And then in the main logo you can just increase the roughness. Play around with the roughness. And see what works better for you. I think I'll just switch this off. So that's about it, guys. The only thing left to do now is to tweak your render settings, of which I might do a second tutorial focusing on render settings, but that was just a brief overview of how you can use a 2D logo and export it into Blender, where we can make it a 3D, where you can play around with the settings and do whatever you like. So I'll just press render now and see how our render looks. So that's about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Please like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. It's currently an up and coming channel, so I really love your support, guys. Tune in for more tutorials. I hope to see you next time where we can work on something more exciting.